Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where I cover missing persons, unsolved cases, crime news, and more. Today marks 888 days that Summer Wells has been missing. 888 days. That's 888 days more than it should be. And remember, Leslie from TBI said that this is not a normal case. It's not normal because after a few days of the searching and their investigating, they would usually have a good idea of what happened to the missing child. Well, they've still had a lot more questions than answers, and while I'm sure TBI knows a lot more than they've told us these last over 2 years, we still don't have any more answers than we did over 2 years ago, 888 days ago, which is really sad. This is a Candace's story of what happened on June 15th, and of course with Don Wells also contributing.
June 15th, 2021, it was just a normal day. I called my wife and she was getting her mother's prescription, so I decided just to go ahead and work late.
We just finished planting flowers and then Summer was putting the rocks on top, and then she got a piece of candy from Grandma, and then she asked to go back in the house with the boys. Well, she walked right in the house. After Summer went inside, I walked back over here to my mom's camper, and I fixed my mom's knee brace when she was sitting right here in the doorway. And I told my mom that I have to go back in with the kids. Helping my mom with the knee brace only took like 2 to 3 minutes. After I came into the house, I asked the boys where she was, and they said that she went downstairs to play in the playroom. And I came into the playroom and looked. I even looked under the bunk beds and everywhere, and she wasn't here at all. When I couldn't find Summer in the basement, I come outside and I stood up here on this hill and I hollered for her and told the boys that she wasn't down there. And then I went outside and I called Donnie right away.
About 5:30 p.m., my wife Candace called and said she couldn't find Summer. I says, well, hang up for me and call 911. So I threw my tools in the car as fast as I could, got in there and started down the road and called 911 myself. I've passed all kind of cars in double yellow and everything, and I'm getting really worried. So here's my road. I pull down here. Here's the creek right here. I notice my 3 boys are together and they're over here looking. And then I looked over that way and seen my neighbor coming this way towards my boys, and my heart sunk because I knew she was abducted. I knew she was gone.
Don immediately went to, she was abducted. And remember, it was soon thereafter that he said, well, she's just gone. She got gone. Children just don't disappear. We've talked about this for the last 800 and some odd days. 888 days would be today again. I've been covering this case since the end of 2021 here on the channel. And children just don't disappear. TBI in Hawkins County had many press conferences when Summer was first reported missing, and then when they issued the Amber Alert. And we had Leslie from TBI talking about how this case was outside of the norm. Now, they did have a few press conferences leading up to this one. This particular press conference was a big update on 6/24 of 2021.
We're still trying to find Summer. It's now been 1 week and 2 days since she went missing. There's still 2 aspects of this case, the active search and the investigation. You'll hear more about the search in just a minute. TBI agents and Hawkins County detectives working alongside the FBI continue to work around the clock to determine what happened to Summer Wells. In order to preserve the integrity of the investigation, we can't discuss everything we're doing and have done to find Summer. Here's what we can tell you. Numerous residents and individuals associated with the family have been interviewed. Surveillance video and photos have been reviewed, as well as other potential digital evidence. We're still working to identify everyone in the area on the afternoon that Summer went missing. One of you asked us in a previous briefing the standard amount of time it takes for a case like this to be resolved. While every case is different, this one is definitely outside of the norm. Typically, in an investigation like this one, we have some idea of where the case is headed and what might have happened within a few days. In this situation, despite doing everything within our power and exploring all avenues, the circumstances leading to Summer's disappearance remain unclear. I understand the lack of answers frustrates you in the public, but trust me, no one is more frustrated than we are. If we develop information that will lead to locating Summer, we will share that with you first and foremost. In the meantime, we ask anyone with information who hasn't come forward to please call 1-800-TBI-FIND.
Again, they still are looking for tips 888 days later. So please still do call that number on the screen if you have any information about Summer Wells. That said, I completely believe that TBI has done everything that they possibly can, and I think that they have a lot more under their belt that they're just waiting to put out. Sadly, like other cases, some things take longer to resolve and get justice for than others, some cases. And she's correct. Leslie Earhart's correct. It's very frustrating because this is not a normal case. This is anything but a normal case. And as we know, it's not an abduction. They've stated that clearly. Something happened to Summer that day, and it wasn't the story, the script that Candace, Don, and Grandis want us to believe it is. Then we jump to the 1 year later press conference, which I found to be a very, very important press conference in this case.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Leslie Earhart, a public information officer for the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. Before we get started, I want to stress that the investigation into the disappearance of Summer Wells is very much active and ongoing. Please understand, in order to preserve the integrity of the investigation, we simply can't speak to specifics. We appreciate you being here today and your continuing coverage of this case. At approximately 6:30 p.m. on this day, 1 year ago, Summer Wells, who was 5 years old at the time, was reported missing from her home in the Beech Creek community of Hawkins County. When we held the first media briefing on June 16th, honestly, we expected to have good news to report by the time the next media briefing came around. Unfortunately, instead, day after day ended in frustration and disappointment. At that time, no one expected that we would still be searching for Summer 1 year later. We've said from the beginning that this case is outside the norm. There are few clues as to what happened to Summer, despite investigators doing everything within their power to find answers. All possibilities are still being explored. Many of you have asked for details about what's been done over the last year. I can tell you agents and detectives have spent thousands of hours on this case. Numerous search warrants have been executed, cell phone data has been analyzed, and any other available digital evidence has been collected, searched, and documented. This includes the social media accounts of those associated with Summer. 3 large ground searches have taken place in the last year with the assistance of more than 100 local, state, and federal agencies. Those searches do not account for the numerous targeted searches done by agents and detectives as they were following up on potential leads. From TBI alone, more than 100 agents, intelligence analysts, and support staff from across the state have been involved in this case. TBI agents working alongside the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office and the FBI have conducted nearly 170 interviews during the investigation. That does not count the hundreds of phone calls made to follow up on tips reported to law enforcement. While investigators have been diligently working to find answers, they've had to deal with thousands of tips generated by false information that in some cases has been intentionally spread across social media platforms. We know that this case has attracted the attention of individuals across the country who genuinely care about Summer and want nothing more but to help us find answers. We appreciate those people. However, we are also aware that there are some people using this case for their own personal gain by spreading false information on social media posts as facts. Some go as far as to solicit donations. This has had a major impact on the investigation and not in a good way. Moving forward,
I have to pause here because this statement made a year later about social media, and she's basically speaking out to those creators on YouTube and what have you, and they know who they are, and a lot of you know who they are if you've been following this case. And they continue putting out their cash apps, asking for donations, throwing out garbage. The bottom line is our ultimate goal here, and of course, I'm not an investigator, and most of you aren't as either, but as advocates for Summer, the goal is to find Summer Wells. It's not about a scrolling cash app at the bottom of your live stream or videos asking for donations for whatever reason. That's not what it's about. It's about showing her face, telling her story, and trying to solicit tips so people can call them in to TBI, Hawkins County, wherever they need to go, so that those people involved or have any information, those tips can go to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and they can finally have some answers and find and bring Summer home.
we ask the public not to submit tips as a result of a video they viewed on YouTube or a theory they've seen posted on Facebook. Please help us and only call if you have direct, specific information about the disappearance of Summer. This investigation weighs heavily on us all, and I can promise you that no one wants answers more than we do, and we are not going to stop until we find them. I'm going to turn it over to Sheriff Ronnie Lawson.
I will say one thing here before Sheriff Lawson speaks. I have to say that no one wants answers more than TBI, maybe some in Hawkins County, definitely those that searched for Summer, all those hours through the heat and awful terrain, and those of us out here advocating for her. I can't say that necessarily of the ones around that were around her. By that I mean her parents, grandparents, and those with her church that should have been there for Summer more. She was failed by so many, and she continues to be failed by them to this day.
Good morning. As Leslie mentioned, we didn't expect this case to be going on a year later. It's heartbreaking to me and my officers and the entire community. We've never stopped looking for Summer. We will continue to do so. There's never been a case in the history of Hawkins County Sheriff's Office that had officers working 365 days and had so many hours spent as we had in this investigation. Also, this office has never utilized so many different local, state, and federal agencies from across the state. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the Federal Bureau of Investigation assists us in every step of this investigation. As you heard Leslie say, thousands of hours have been invested in finding Summer, thousands of them. 170 interviews have been done. Many of these individuals have spoken to more than one time. While we haven't said a lot about the details about the investigative actions that's taken place, please know that we've never stopped. I deeply appreciate the many rescue squads, the MAs, and volunteer fire departments for their help. And the support from the citizens and the communities of this county is just unbelievable and overwhelming. With the encouragement we get with the food during the searches we've done, and all the law enforcement officers, agencies throughout the state of Tennessee, it's just phenomenal how everybody pitched in and helped us with these searches and with this investigation. And while I can promise you that we will continue to conduct target searches in the Beach Creek area as new information is developed, we'll also continue to follow up on any legitimate leads. And it's been the goal of this team since day one to find Summer. We've never stopped, we've never slowed down, we deal with it every day. And that's the whole purpose of this, to let you all know, despite what you hear, what you see, we haven't stopped. The men and women of these agencies have worked tirelessly, hours and hours and hours, and I commend every one of them for the job they've done, and we're going to continue till we find Summer.
I will say that I hope that Ronnie Lawson is still committed to that. I have questions that I question his commitment to it. At the same time, I do pray and hope that he is still committed as much as he was here, or that he's claiming to be at this 1-year press conference. Because that is what we all need to be committed to, is Summer.
A few months ago, you guys said that the parents were not cooperating anymore. Has there been any changes in that, especially as Don Wells is incarcerated here in this facility?
We're not going to characterize cooperation at this time. Honestly, doing so does nothing but create more speculation, and it doesn't benefit the investigation. But thank you for asking.
When this first came out, you guys said that Summer was last seen walking away from her home. That was like one of the initial reports that night. And then things kind of changed the following day. Is there any evidence that she walked away from home, or any evidence leading toward an abduction, or do we have any evidence of anything that night otherwise?
We don't have anything specific, and I think what's important to note there is that the sheriff mentioned that how many hours we've put into this investigation and how much time has been spent exploring every possibility: walk-off, abduction, other foul means. And I think that's the thing to keep in mind is it's still really wide open as to the what. We try to stay away from developing theories and just follow facts.
You mentioned that you're continuing to look at this case every day. Are there more searches planned as we're approaching the summer months?
No specific plan. However, if we get specific information about a specific location, building, what have you, we will coordinate with each other to go take a look at that location. What made it hard back in the summer is obviously the foliage. That's why you saw the 2 searches that were when the leaves were on the ground, so that we could use air assets and that you could actually see more of what's on the ground at the time. People say, well, leaves to cover things up. Well, you get moving things around enough, you'll see what you're looking for.
In the past, you said that there's no evidence that there was an abduction. Does that still stand?
It still stands.
Do the facts point towards one theory more than another?
No, they do not.
Or what happened?
Not at this point.
Well, thank you guys for being here. I just want to point out one more thing. This case is not cold. We get asked that a lot. It's not. We're talking to the sheriff constantly. We all work together as one team, and we're determined to find answers.
I still don't think it's a cold case. I've seen a few online stating this is a cold case. I don't believe that at all. I believe that we're not hearing much because this was the last main big press conference in the case. I was really hoping for one this past summer for the 2-year. But that said, I fully believe that this is not a cold case, and it may take some time, but TBI is going to find Summer Wells. And hopefully Hawkins County will be a part of that. WJHL Ansley, who has done exceptional work with the Summer Wells case, they did an interview with Detective Pruitt. He's the main investigator on the case of the search for Summer Wells. This was done about a year ago, and I hadn't gone through it here on the channel, so let's go through that.
It is a lot to shoulder, it's a lot to burden. We have a missing child that we haven't found yet.
Almost 10 months and so much heartache. And investigators aren't immune from that hurt. The question of what happened to Summer Wells still has no answer.
There haven't been very many cases like this. I have never worked a missing child case with all these different entities and agencies involved.
The lead investigator on the case says his days are devoted to finding her.
My day, I check tip line and voicemail when I first get here. I do phone calls and follow-ups on any credible leads I've got. I follow up on anything that I didn't get to a good conclusion the day before. Then I go into my normal caseload of any new cases I've got, follow-ups on them.
They've received nearly 2,000 tips.
I will follow up on everything I can to try to bring closure for this.
Self-proclaimed online investigators and social media sleuths have turned this case into a mess of ideas. And tips have come in from everywhere across the U.S. and even overseas. That help, Pruitt says, has led to little more than time wasted.
If these people want to help so much, we always accept applications to certified individuals.
Yeah, Pruitt. That particular end of that kind of always rubbed me the wrong way. We're always accepting applications. Well, we're not the investigators, though. That said, he says he goes in every day, checks the tip line, checks his voicemails, I guess emails, whatever, and then he goes and works on other cases. Now, this was 10 months into the case. I don't know if this is still how the case is followed up on, if he does this daily. I'm very curious of that, and I'm curious of how Hawkins County is handling this case 888 days later.
He says the investigation has led to the continued thought that if Summer is found, it will be nearby.
I believe that she would probably be somewhere close by, because we found nothing to lead us to believe that she's been abducted or trafficked out of the area.
Pruitt works alongside the TBI and FBI. Along with the ground search, Pruitt says investigators have poured through data. Almost a year into the case, and Detective Pruitt says it still remains a very active investigation.
I'm not going to let it go cold.
I sure hope you don't, Pruitt. I really hope you're not letting it go cold, because we are not the investigators here, and we don't want it to go cold. We want to find this sweet girl. And do I think she's close? I think she has been close. I don't know if that's still the case. I have a few theories on what may have happened to her. One of them does involve an accident and a cover-up. Another involves the shed. But either way, there's definitely a cover-up, in my opinion. And I believe that cover-up is very well known to Don Wells, Candace Bly Wells, and Grandis. We notice that Grandis sort of keeps a very, very low profile. She got the hell out of Dodge not long after her granddaughter went missing. For someone that supposedly has a horrible leg and all these other ailments that Candace claims that her mother has, man, she sure got out of there, like a jackrabbit, didn't she? And last I heard, she was in Georgia. Don't know if she's still there, but I suppose she's got her little camper and she does whatever the heck she does. That said, I believe those are the three keys to this puzzle, this mystery that is what happened to Summer. I don't believe for a hot second that she walked away or she was abducted. I completely agree with TBI, and even Pruitt is agreeing with that there's no abduction. Something happened to her that day that the Wells are very well aware of. And the problem is neither Candace nor Dawn want to tell the truth. Again, I'm hoping once the boys' situation gets finally resolved after this delay with the judge, hopefully the beginning of 2024, I hope and pray that more is going to start happening in this case, because she deserves answers. She deserves justice. And she was failed by so many when she lived on Ben Hill Road. And I know I'm not going to let her be failed since she went missing. I'm out here in my little corner of YouTube to make sure that I share her face and put it out there that I will never give up on her. And I know that I'm not the only one. So let's continue to share her face, and let's hope some more tips will come in, and let's hope that TBI is just waiting for the right moment to strike. I really, really hope that that's the case. So I pray for this little girl, and I pray for her to have justice very, very soon. That said, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and most of all, stay safe.